Hey, if you're looking to create a set of financial projections for a med spa business, maybe for a potential investor or potential lender, then you have come to the right place. We have created a financial projection spreadsheet template built specifically for med spa businesses. I'm going to walk you through how the template works, how to fill it out, and how it kind of pulls everything together into an investor and lender ready format for you. Before I do that, just as a quick note, at the end of the video, if you stick around to the very end, I'm going to give you access to a discount code to be able to take a discount on this particular template as a thank you for sticking around to watch this whole video. And before I dive into the details of the template, just a little bit of background on me. My name is Adam Hoeksema. I'm the co-founder of ProjectionHub. And before I started ProjectionHub, I served as an SBA lender, a small business administration lender, where we made small business loans to thousands of small businesses over the course of about a decade. And during that time, we often asked our clients for financial projections. And it was that experience that led me to try to create a solution that was easier for small business owners to create lender-ready and investor-ready financial projections, which is why we came up with ProjectionHub. So today we have a library of about 100 different industry-specific financial projection templates. And today we're specifically focused on this med spa template. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into the details now. Okay, so this is kind of the end of the process. So after you have filled out all of your assumptions, made all of your assumptions, this is kind of the end of the process. You'll get this profit and loss at a glance table, some key summary data, some different graphs and charts and key industry ratios, a use of startup funds, tables and graphs. You'll also get a 5-year income statement summary, 5-year cash flow summary by year, and a 5-year balance sheet summary. Now you'll also get a 5-year income statement, cash flow and balance sheet summary, all broken down by month. So you get the monthly detail. That's often a request from lenders as well to get the monthly detail in there as well. So in order to produce these reports, though, we have a bit of work to do. And so we're going to start back on the input assumptions tab here. And the first thing you need to know is that any cell that's highlighted in blue is an assumption you can change, meaning you can just overwrite that assumption. It's not going to break anything in the model, okay? So you can overwrite these assumptions. We're going to start with a January 1st projection start month. We're going to assume that we're making a personal investment into the business of $100,000. We put in month 0 for the month of operation that was invested, meaning we're assuming this is a startup and we're going to put this money in at month 0 or the beginning of the business. We're assuming 100% of our sales are going to be collected up front in this scenario, and that we're going to pay 80% of our expenses in the month that the expenses incurred. Maybe some of our expenses, we have terms for with some vendors, maybe our utility bill, we get 30 days to pay, that sort of thing. We're going to assume that we're going to have a beginning inventory balance of $5,000, so we'll have a little bit of inventory on hand. And then let's just make this a small percentage here. We're going to hold some inventory as a percentage of sales. We're going to hold some inventory on hand in the business, and this assumption will just make sure that we keep some inventory on hand on our balance sheet. All right, so for fixed assets, we can enter in things like leasehold improvements or renovations to the building. So let's say we're renting a space and we're going to do $100,000 worth of leasehold improvements that build it out for our specific med spa. And we set the life expectancy for that asset as 10 years. Maybe that's because our lease is 10 years. A lot of times you want to tie the life expectancy of a renovation, the leasehold improvement, to the term of the lease. For all of these assets, we're assuming the salvage cost is 0, meaning we're not going to be able to sell these assets for anything after the end of the useful life. And we're assuming month 0 for all of these, at month 0 or the beginning again of the model is when we're going to make these expenses or have these expenses. And then we can add in an SBA loan here. So we're going to assume a $200,000 SBA loan, 8% interest paid over 10 years or 120 months. So now based on those assumptions, we're going to see this table down here that says how much cash do I need? And based on the assumptions up here and the assumptions on the rest of the model, it's going to tell us whether it thinks our starting cash is sufficient. So this is a table we're going to need to come back to at the end of the process. So after we've updated all of our assumptions, we're going to come back to this and just make sure that it thinks that we have enough cash for the fixed assets that we need, maybe a buffer, and the working capital that we need to cover our expenses until we break even. So right now it thinks we have enough, but we're going to make some changes and see what happens. All right, so on our input revenue tab to start with here, we're going to assume that we have an advertising budget. We're spending $2,000 a month, and we think it's going to cost us $200 to attract one new customer. We think these are, potentially high value customers, but also, we're gonna have to attract them with some advertising dollars. And so we've got new clients from advertising here, and then we have new clients from organic sources. So this could be our word of mouth or just organic Google searches, that sort of thing. And then what we're assuming here is that this is actually going to decrease over time. So the idea here is that at some point you hit kind of a market saturation where all the customers that you could have potentially have gotten from word of mouth and organic sources, you've had a chance to work with all of them. And over time, it's actually going to get harder and harder to get more new customers from word of mouth. From there, we're going to be able to say, okay, what percentage of our new clients here are going to become regulars that come again and again? And maybe we're going to bump this up. Maybe we think we can get 30% of folks that visit us once will become regulars. And here we have an annual churn rate. So once somebody becomes a regular and repeat customer, what percentage of those customers are going to leave every year? So we're saying 10% of our regulars are going to churn or leave each year. From there, we're going to say, okay, how many times is a regular customer going to visit per month? We put 0.75, meaning 9 visits per year. We have an assumption here for the maximum daily client visits for the entire business. So let's say, we're a small clinic, one provider, and so we're going to have a maximum of 20 client visits per day. And then we're open 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. So here's our maximum number of client visits per month of 607. And then down here, we're going to estimate the client visits per month. And this is based on the new client visits plus the visits from the regulars, the repeat customers that are coming again and again. From there, now that we know how many client visits we're going to have each month, we can say, okay, what percentage of client visits are going to purchase these different services that we have? Okay, and so you can see that this right now adds up to a lot more than 100%. And that could be because one customer could purchase multiple of these services all at the same time, potentially on the same visit. Now, I'm going to adjust these down because we probably won't have this many services all purchased by the same customers, right? So let's say we're going to adjust all of these down. Okay, so as we do that, and now we'll see how this ends up kind of flowing through to the rest of the model, because we may end up wanting to make some other adjustments. But then from there, what we can do is put in our average revenue per service. So this is the price that you're going to charge for your different services here. You'd be able to put that in, and then the length of service in hours. So this is how long does it take you or the provider to provide the service. And then are we going to provide a commission to our employees that are providing the service? So again, this can be you can pay your employees a base rate plus a commission here. So we've got a 10% commission set up. And then this would be your cost of supplies used during the service. So if you have supplies or expenses related to the provision of the service itself, that's what you'd want to enter here. So this would be beyond labor expense. So this would be like the material cost, the product cost itself. All right, so from there, we're going to say, okay, what's our employee base pay? So we're going to assume that the average weekly hours per employee is 40. We need to have 2 employees on hand all the time, we think. And we have an employee base rate of $20 per hour. So based on that, the model is going to calculate, based on the services you're providing, the number of customer visits, how long it takes to provide these services. Right down here, it's going to calculate how many employees it thinks are needed based on that model. And again, we've kept it based on our assumptions here. What I think I'm going to do is ramp up some of these assumptions a bit here. So let's say our word of mouth does a little bit better. than we hoped. So let's say we're getting 50 new clients a month from word of mouth sources. Since I decreased these percent of client visits or services are performed, that dropped down our demand quite a bit. So let's make some adjustments there. So this will, you'll see now over time, eventually we're going to need, the model thinks roughly by the end, 3 employees to be able to meet the demand of the services required. And we're going to pay $20 a month. And so this is going to calculate based on the number of employees we have and the base rate. It's going to calculate employee wages. Now we also have the ability to enter in product sales. So if we're selling products as well, say what percentage of customers are going to also purchase a product. And we're saying 50%. And of those 50%, this is kind of the breakdown of the products that will be sold with the price points and costs for that. All right, and then we're going to move on here to our operating expenses. So we have the ability to enter in our operating expenses as a fixed dollar amount or a percentage of revenue. And so, for example, credit card processing fees would be a good expense to set up as a percentage of revenue. So let's say your credit card processor is going to charge 3% fee. Well, then 3% of your revenue you would want to set up as a fee. Now, what if you think, well, some of our clients are going to pay cash or check? Okay, well, if that's the case, then we don't want to make it 3% of total revenue. We might want to make it, maybe it's only 2% of total revenue because some percentage of our customers won't pay with a credit card. So we can adjust that down here. All right, and you can see examples of other expenses here. And then on the salaries side of things, we can enter in a dermatologist, for example, or a provider that is going to actually be the provider for this med spa. So we have entered in some assumptions there. Now this would be, you can enter in, what you want to make sure is that you're not double counting. So if you have a salaried position, and this sometimes could be maybe even just a part-time salaried position, part-time provider, and you also have, your technicians here that are paid, an hourly rate that maybe are able to do many of the services. So you kind of need to be thinking about that and make sure that you're not double counting, okay? So you don't want to have employees here that are also entered in on the salaries tab. All right, so based on all those assumptions, we come to our at a glance here and we can see how the model is turning out. And so we're showing, based on these assumptions, $1 million in revenue in first year with a healthy net income. And so we can see our 5-year income statement all the way to the monthly income statement here as well. And now we just want to come back to our input assumptions, and based on all of those assumptions that we entered, we're going to say, okay, again, is our starting cash still sufficient? And yes, based on the assumptions that we have in there, starting cash is sufficient. So of course, you're going to need to put in all of your own assumptions and price points and kind of breakdown of services, and your situation is going to be different. So if you need any help in filling the template out, just reach out to us at support@ProjectionHub.com. And also, as a thank you for sticking around to the very end here, if you go down to the description of the video below on YouTube, there's going to be a link to a form. You can click that form and fill that out, and we're going to email you our most up-to-date coupon code so you can get a discount on this particular template. Again, if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks.